Can you take the whole from me? There's still some left. What am I? Both you and your sister answer wholesome. The man smiles again and lets you go. Now you have to find the exit, and you have no idea where to go. You randomly take turns, and in the end, you get lost in the building's labyrinth. After half an hour of wandering around, you realize that you've been going around in circles. You admit that you're lost and can't find a way out. Suddenly, from each of the 3 directions before you, a man appears. Each man says he was kidnapped too, but escaped and will show you the exit, while the other 2 men are guardians and will lead you back to your kidnappers. Who should you trust? You notice that the second man has bruises from the handcuffs on his arms, so you decide to believe him. You look at your sister and realize that she noticed it too. You nod, and each of you walks towards one of the other 2, and unexpectedly for them, knock them out. The man gives you thumbs up and tells you to follow him. You're back in the labyrinth again, taking turns over and over. Does he really know where to go? How much time did he spend here? You even start worrying if you made the right choice, but then you bump into a massive metal door. To open it, you need to enter the password. But lucky you, there's a hint again. The note is saying 5th of March, 1st of October, 2nd of April, 4th of November. That's why the man was wandering around looking for someone. He couldn't crack the code. Can you? The 5th of March means the 5th letter of the word March, which is H. Similarly, the first letter of October is O, the 2nd of April is P, and the 4th of November is E. The password is HOPE. You type it, and yes, it works! Great job! The lock clicks, and you pull the heavy door open. You did it! You are outside once more. It's early morning, so you spent the whole night inside. But wait, can you hear it? Footsteps! They're after you, and you have to run to a safe place immediately. There are 3 ways. On the left, there's a dark forest. Straight, there's a city. And on the right, a lake. Which way will you choose? You should definitely run straight to the city where there are people around. So, what are you waiting for? Run!
There was once a magical forest where 32 mermaids, 43 elves, 26 unicorns, and 57 fairies lived. The forest got cursed, and life there got disrupted. The mermaids started living on dry land, forcing the elves to move out. The elves had to move to the territories of the unicorns. The unicorns started to lose their magic powers and needed fairy dust to sustain themselves. So, fairies had to work overtime and were exhausted. There are 4 spells. One will make elves disappear. The second will make mermaids move to the territories of unicorns instead of elves. The third one will heal the species, but only those with an even number of creatures. The fourth will turn unicorns into fairies. Which one should you use? You should use the third one. The mermaids and unicorns are the species that need to be healed, and both have an even number of creatures. Mrs. Collins has 5 daughters: Hannah, Elle, Eve, Anna, and Ava. What is special about their names? They all have palindromic names, meaning they're the same when you read them from left to right and from right to left. Adam was traveling around the world when he found himself in a little kingdom. He didn't have a map or the internet. He was just wandering around. Also, he couldn't read any signs because he didn't know the language. Adam walked into a beautiful castle and ran into two girls. It turned out that it was the castle of the royal family, and no one was allowed in there. The girls agreed not to report him, but only if he guessed which one of them was the princess. Can you help him? Look at the wall. There's a painting of the queen and her daughter. She looks exactly like the girl on the right. I bet she's the princess. Genevieve is a time traveler, and she got to ancient Greece. The girl was so mesmerized by everything that she forgot to be careful and blend in. So, she was captured and taken to the emperor. He could tell that Genevieve wasn't from his land, so he started to interrogate her but didn't believe a single word. Still, he was a nice person, so he gave Genevieve a chance to escape.
Yes!
There were 3 young women in front of her. If she guessed which one of them was his daughter, she'd be set free. Can you help Genevieve? Look, this girl has the exact same necklace as the emperor. It must be his daughter. People invented the time machine, and now there are criminals traveling in time and disrupting time flow. The time police tried to catch the imposters, and they need your help. Look at this picture. Do you see the time traveler? It's this dude here. Look at his fancy modern haircut. Back in that era, people didn't have barber shops.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Wild West. Do you see the time traveler here? It must be this person, the one wearing modern sneakers. The next stop is ancient Egypt. Take a very close look and find someone who doesn't belong here. What is this girl wearing? A tank top and shorts? No, she's not from here. Okay, we have to catch some more. For example, here, do you see anything suspicious? I don't think people had cell phones back then. This is the imposter. Okay, another Stone Age image for you. Who doesn't fit in here? This girl looks like a Stone Ager, but she's reading a book. There were no books back then.
Hello.
Great, there's just one last time traveler to catch, and they're in the Middle Ages. Look closely and tell me who you think it is. This guy is wearing headphones. Yeah, that's him.
Oh my god!
Mr. Thompson was in his house reading a newspaper when he heard some noise outside. He walked out and saw that someone had crashed into his car. He asked his neighbors what they'd been doing. Scarlett said that she'd been at home playing video games. Charles said that he'd just come back after a walk with his dog. Tessa said that she'd been gardening behind her house. Who lied? It must be Tessa. She doesn't have any gardening tools with her. And she isn't dressed properly for gardening. Serena was having a party in her house, and she invited all her classmates. In the middle of the party, the lights went off for a couple of minutes. When the light came back on, Serena realized that her parents' expensive vase covered in diamonds had been stolen. 3 people seemed suspicious to her. Tatum said, "I was in the bathroom." Quinn said, "I didn't steal anything. I didn't even know the vase was so expensive." Dean said, "When the lights went off, I fell into the pool and I was pretty busy getting out." Who lied? Dean, for sure. If he had fallen into the pool, he'd be all wet, but his clothes are completely dry. In a little town, someone stole a bucket of chicken wings from a local store. 3 customers were the main suspects. Mr. Cook was interrogated at work.
Hello.
I was in a rush and just got something for lunch. I didn't steal anything.
Mrs. Bailey was at home making breakfast. I only got some fresh vegetables. My family is vegan.
What?
Dale, a college student, was in the park studying. I got my sandwich and left. I didn't know anything about the theft. Who lied? Mrs. Bailey. She said her family was vegan, but she has cheese and cow milk on the table. Vegans don't eat any of that. In a parallel universe, it's only allowed to have fun and eat candy. No one studies or does anything useful. Mr. Relum came back home after shopping with her friends all day and asked her daughters what they had been doing.
I was eating popcorn and binge watching a TV show,
said Hannah.
I was playing soccer with my friends,
said Elle. I was at the beach with some friends, said Ava. Who lied? It must be Hannah. Look, she hasn't even started her popcorn, and there's also a book under her bed. Elle's soccer team played 6 matches in the season. They won 2, drew 2, and lost 2. In total, they conceded 2 goals and scored 3. What are the results of all 6 matches? Every time they lost, they must have conceded at least 1 goal. They lost 2 matches and conceded 2 goals, which means they conceded 1 goal each time. The scores of these matches must be 0-1. We're out of conceded goals, so the scores of the 2 drawn matches should be 0-0. Now, we're only left with 3 goals and 2 winning games. So, in one game, they must have won with a score of 1-0, and in the other, with a score of 2-0. Ava was out partying with her friend all week, so her room is a complete mess now. It's Friday, and she's planning to go on a picnic with her best friend. She needs her bag, her sunglasses, and her cell phone. Can you help her find them? Here they are. Great job. It's Saturday, and Ava still hasn't had time to clean. Now she's heading to her classmate's place for a pool party. She needs her swimsuit, her necklace, and her heels. Can you find them? Yes, they're all here. Ava is getting ready and realizes that a lot of her stuff isn't in the bathroom. She remembers she lent it to Elle. Elle says that the stuff is in her room, which is, of course, also a mess. Can you help Ava find her lipstick, her hairdryer, and her hairbrush? Here they are. Did you find them all? Elle is getting ready for her soccer practice. She needs her football, her sneakers, and her lunchbox. Where are they? They're all right here. Hannah returned home after a short walk and immediately noticed that her favorite bracelet was gone. She knew that Ava loved it and that she was getting ready for a party, so she was the main suspect. Hannah ran into Ava in the bathroom and demanded her bracelet back.
I was taking a shower while you were gone and then getting dressed without leaving the bathroom. I wouldn't have had any time to take your bracelet.
Hannah knew that Ava lied. How? If Ava had really taken a shower, the bathroom mirror would be misted. But look, it's all clear.
Time to go to your room and get some rest. But uh-oh, the elevator you entered is a trap. It takes you to the hotel's basement, where 3 doors appear in front of you. The first door takes you to the Amazon rainforest, with green anacondas, electric eels, and poison dart frogs. The second takes you to the Antarctic circumpolar current, the largest and most potent current globally. The third takes you to the top of Mauna Kea in Hawaii, It's the tallest mountain and largest volcano in the world that goes below sea level. Only one of them takes you to a safe place. Which one? You've got 6 seconds. Pick the third door. Mauna Kea is a dormant volcano, and it stopped erupting hundreds of thousands of years ago, so you're safe. You've made it out of the shady cave and you need to go to your room. As soon as you enter, the lights go off, and you hear bars lowering to the floor and huge chains shaking. You use your arms to navigate around and come across dots on the wooden floor. You run your fingers through them. It's Braille, and it reads, "One of the 3 magic mushrooms on this table will help you leave this place. Pick wisely, otherwise you'll be stuck in this dark room forever." The mushrooms on the left will make you super strong and provides healing powers. The one in the middle will bring the electricity back, and you'll be able to see. The one on the right will make you small and invisible. You've got 5 seconds to pick the right mushroom. Turning the lights on won't free you, and becoming invisible doesn't mean you won't bump into walls. The best option is the strength and healing mushroom. You can bang on the walls and bars until you break them. The next day rolls around. You head into the parking lot to pick up your car, but the car seems to be locked. There's a 3-digit PIN code lock on the passenger side door. On the side of the device, you read a clue. ABC equals 123. On the ground, there's a piece of paper that reads BAD. Use the clue to find PIN code numbers. Here are your 4 seconds. The code is 214. B is the second letter, A is the first, and D is the fourth. Now that you've got your car, time to do some shopping at the mall. You visit a jewelry shop. You discover it has a mysterious extension leading to a room filled with gold coins, diamonds, and other expensive metals. As soon as the owner spots you, he traps you in the room and locks the door. Nice shop. He tells you there's only one way to survive in that dark chamber. You must eat 1 muffin. If you eat the wrong one, you won't make it. But if you pick the right one, you'll be free to go. The first muffin turns you into moss. The second one turns you into a badger. The third muffin will turn you into a snake. 3 seconds. Moss can't survive without the sun for long, and snakes need the sun to regulate their body's temperature. The correct answer is the muffin that turns you into a badger. These creatures spend long periods in the dark. The mayor of the town calls you into his office. He politely ignores the fact that you're now a badger. He says that something mysterious is going on inside one of the town's restaurants. Everyone has turned into a zombie. Only one human is left in the bar, and you must save them. But first, you have to identify them. You're shown a photo with 3 people. Only one of them is human. You've got 3 seconds. It's the lady on the right. It looks like the red spot on her shirt came from her hot dog. The lady on the left is missing part of her ear. Now the mayor takes you to the local school. The principal needs to decide which of the students deserves to go to space camp next summer. She picked all the students that got A's on their report cards and gave each of them a bean. She said, "The person who will return with the tallest bean plant will win the prize. But you can't cheat." All kids came back with large plant pots and bean plants filled with smaller beans. Only one girl returned with a plant pot filled with soil. As soon as the principal saw her pot, he gave her the prize. Why? Here are your 3 seconds. The teacher gave them cold cooked beans. They couldn't have sprouted unless the students cheated. And these guys all got A's, huh? Makes you wonder.
Before they made their wedding vows, Jenny had to say yes to a dress. So, she went to a couture store to check their wedding gown collection. She explained to the designer the style of the dress she wanted for her ceremony. The designer said he had just the perfect gown for her and would bring it to her if she answered his riddle correctly. He asked, if a gown takes an hour to dry, how many hours will it take 6 dresses to dry? It'll still take 1 hour because they'll all dry at the same time. Ben had one last item to buy on his wedding shopping list, and it was what fastens 2 people yet touches only one. Can you figure out what it is? It's a wedding ring, of course. Ben headed to a jewelry store to get something blue for his bride. The store owner showed him 3 different wedding rings with blue gemstones. Which one should he buy? The second ring has an engraving inside, so it must have belonged to someone else before. The gemstone on the third ring has a tiny crack in it. That can only mean it's made of glass or even plastic. So, Ben should buy the first ring with a sapphire. Next, Ben and Jenny were going to send out invitations. One print shop offered them 3 different versions of invitations. Which one should they choose? Do you remember the name of the hotel they booked? It was Sunrise Lodge, but the first invitation says Sunset Lodge. So this one won't do. And on the third invitation, their names are printed as Benny and Jen. That's not our couple, so they should choose the second invitation. Before the wedding, 3 of their friends paid them a visit. One of them brought a painting as a wedding gift, but all 3 claimed that they were the artist who had created it. 2 of them must be lying. Can you figure out who the actual artist is? Take a look at the signature on the painting. It says Denise. Now look at the third friend's necklace. It has the letter D, so she must be Denise, the artist who painted the painting. It was finally the day of the wedding, and Ben and Jenny's guests started to arrive. However, the hotel security spotted 3 suspicious-looking people who could be uninvited. Take a look at these 3 guys. Can you tell which one is not supposed to be at the wedding? Do you see the hotel wristbands that say Ben and Jenny, that the second and the third guys are wearing? That can only mean they are actually invited. So it's the first guy who's crushing the wedding. Sorry, dude, no free drinks for you. After the vows were exchanged, it was time to party. As Ben and Jenny were dancing, someone spilled their drink on Jenny's dress, but no one saw who it was. Jenny spotted 3 people who could have done it. Take a look at them. Can you tell who ruined her dress? The first guy has spots on his shirt that resemble stains from the spilled drink, but they are actually part of the pattern, so it can't be him. The third lady looks clean, but the hem of the second lady's skirt looks dirty, so it must be her who did it. After the ceremony ended, Ben and Jenny wanted to take a photo to capture the moment forever. But take a look at it. There's something strange about it. Can you spot what it is? Can you see a woman hiding behind the trees watching them? She is wearing a witch hat, but it's a wedding ceremony and not a costume party. Creepy.
Look at these people lounging near a swimming pool. They all seem to be wealthy, but in fact, only one of them is a millionaire. The girl sitting under the palm tree is wearing a lot of gold jewelry. But all this gold is fake. It leaves greenish marks on her body. The girl walking past the swimming pool is wearing sandals with a large logo on them. But the name of this brand is written wrong, so it's fake. The guy who's lying on the floating mattress is playing a game on his phone. But instead of an apple, there's a strawberry on his gadget. The man who's watering the plants is the millionaire we're looking for. There's a Mercedes keychain hanging out of his pocket. He also left a $100 tip for the waiter. Ethan and his girlfriend Anne went to explore a cave and got lost. After some time, they came across two people, a man and a woman. The man, bearded and rough-looking, had a shovel in his hands. "I've been stuck here for a week. I know how to get to the surface, but I need your help. Come with me." The young woman exclaimed, "Don't trust him. He's a criminal. Follow me. I've been here longer than him. I know where the exit is." Who should the guys believe? Ethan and Anne decided to follow the man. If the girl had been in the cave for more than a week, why does she look so tidy and has fresh flowers in her hair? Several gold bullion bars were stolen from a bank. The police figured out where they could be and who could take them. Without wasting time, they arrived at the main suspect's house. But since they were in a hurry, they forgot to bring a warrant. The man told them he wouldn't allow them to search his house. "Come back with a warrant and we'll talk." An hour later, the police officers came back with the needed document. They thoroughly searched the house and garden but didn't find the gold. Suddenly, one of the officers exclaimed, "I know where he hid the gold." Have you figured it out? The gold is in the swimming pool. When the police visited the man for the first time, the level of water in it was lower. A man shaves every day, but still has a long and thick beard. How is it possible? The man is a barber, and he shaves his clients. One day, a famous soccer coach went missing right from the locker room. The detective has 3 suspects, and all of them are from the coach's team. Brandon says that after training, he stayed on the pitch to practice a bit more. He hasn't been to the locker room yet. Andrew swears that straight after the training, he went outside to meet with his girlfriend. And James claims that when he was leaving the locker room, the trainer was still there. Who is the criminal? It's Andrew. He said he hadn't been to the locker room yet, but he's wearing not the uniform, but his street clothes. 5 people were asked to step over a pencil that was lying on the floor, but for some reason, none of them managed to do it. Have you figured out why? The pencil was placed near the wall. How tricky. The safe's open. Justin sees a folder with the case he needs to solve next. Mr. White, a rich businessman, disappeared from his bedroom, but he managed to leave a note. It read, the 1st of July, the 4th of January, the 1st of December, the 8th of February. The police questioned the people who were in the house at that time. Judy, Mr. White's wife, said, "I'm shocked. My husband was always so careful. Sadly, I don't know anything. I was away staying at my parents'." Logan, Mr. White's secretary, told the police he had been working on the report for his boss and hadn't left his study. And Rose, Mr. White's daughter, answered, "I was having guests. We didn't leave my room." The case is still unsolved. Can Justin crack it? The one behind Mr. White's disappearance is his wife. The 1st of July means the letter J, the 4th of January, U, the 1st of December, D, and the 8th of February, Y. Altogether, it's Judy. The next day, Justin was questioning Mary, a suspect in a tricky smuggling case. The girl refused to talk. At some moment, she shouted, "Right now, I'd drown my phone in this cup filled with coffee and you'll never find out the truth." But Justin was totally unbothered by her threat. Why? The cup was filled with coffee beans. They would do no harm to the gadget. A shoe shiner was arrested and taken to the police station where Justin worked. The man was shouting he was an honest person. He cleaned people's shoes for free. His clients paid him of their own will. But Justin soon realized which trick the shoe shiner used. The man cleaned one shoe for free. Nobody wanted to look untidy in just one clean shoe, and paid him for shining the other one. Once, Justin's boss called his wife and told her he'd come back home at 8 o'clock. They had no plans for the evening whatsoever. The man was at home almost on time, at 5 minutes past 8. But his wife was furious. The boss was confused. When he came to work the next day, he asked Justin to explain to him why his wife had been so angry. Justin told his boss, "Well, your wife expected you to come home at 8 p.m., but you came at 8 in the morning." Justin was sent to patrol the streets. While walking, he saw a weird picture. A man went out of a house with a bucket of water, shouted, and poured this water on the sidewalk. It took Justin some time to figure out why he had done it. The man had been planning to wash his car, but while he was away, it got stolen. Once, a bank was robbed. The police suspected that one of the bank's security guards had helped the criminals, and Justin had to question 3 of them. The first security guard told him he had heard some shouting and rushed there, but by the time he arrived, the criminals had already been gone. The second security guard explained he had been drinking a cup of coffee at that moment and hadn't even heard anything. And the third guard said that he had run after the thieves, but he had to lace his boot. Without a second thought, he crouched near an emergency exit. At that very moment, the door opened and hit him on the head. When he came back, the criminals had been gone. Justin immediately understood which guard was guilty. Who was it? It was the third security guard. All emergency doors open outwards for safety reasons. Justin's next suspect was a young woman. The guy hadn't seen her yet, but he had her photo. When he was looking at this picture, he felt something was wrong, but couldn't figure out what exactly. Then, all of a sudden, it dawned on him. What did Justin realize? The girl was inside the house, but the door was blocked from the outside. How did she get in and out of the house? Through the second-floor window? Unlikely. A notorious criminal escaped from a 150-foot tower. Someone had managed to get him a pair of scissors and a rope. Justin found out that the rope was just 75 feet long, and the criminal had cut it in the middle. Now, the future detective needs to understand how it helped the man get away. The criminal indeed cut the rope in the middle, but not across. He made the cut along the rope, tied its 2 parts together, and got down to the ground without any problems. A peasant boy was caught in the king's palace. The king was very mad and didn't want to let him go just like that. He loved all kinds of riddles, so he gave the boy a chance to escape. He said the boy could walk out of any of the 3 doors, and if he stayed safe, he was free. Behind the first door, there were lions that hadn't eaten in 3 years. Behind the second door, there were 3 trained assassins. Behind the third door, there was poisonous gas. The boy made his choice and managed to leave. Which door did he walk out of? He used the first door. If lions hadn't eaten in 3 years, they couldn't have survived. They were just skin and bones. A young woman, Julia, drank a spiked tea and left a note. The note was saying, "I just can't live like this anymore, and so I won't. Nobody's guilty." However, the officer didn't think she drank the tea willingly. He suggested that someone had staged everything and made her do it. After a careful analysis, it was confirmed that the note was really written by Julia. Still, the police officer arrested the one who was guilty. There were only 3 people in the house: Julia's boyfriend, Ian, her older sister, Kate, and her lab partner, Mia. Can you guess who's guilty? The first letters of each sentence come together as Ian, her boyfriend's name. He must have made her write a note to make it look like it was her choice, but Julia left a hint for the police. A man fell off the 3rd floor of the building. He was fine, but he lost his memory and couldn't tell what happened. Someone had seen him a while ago washing the windows, and everybody agreed it must have been an accident. However, a detective decided to check if it was true. He walked up to the 3rd floor, opened the window, and threw down a coin. When he returned, he stated that the man didn't fall himself, but somebody pushed him out. How did the detective know? The detective opened the window. It means it had been closed before. If the man had fallen by accident, the window would have remained open. You're locked in a dungeon. There are 3 ways out, but none of them seem safe. Behind the first door, there's a huge and strong guard. Behind the second, there's 3 big and hungry dogs. Behind the third door, there's 2 sharp spinning cogwheels. Which way should you follow to get out and stay safe? The third one. The cogwheels are quite high above the ground, so you can crawl beneath them. You and your friend come back home very late, when everyone is already asleep. Nobody knew that you were outside, and nobody should. There's a code on the door that asks to type in the rest of it. Your friend completely forgot it, but if you don't type it in 10 seconds, it'll start the security alarm. Can you guess what the missing numbers are? The combination is just a set of 2-digit numbers: 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So the other 6 digits are 1, 6, 1, 7, 1, 8 that make the remaining 16, 17, and 18. James is a single father of triplet daughters. He stayed late at work and got a call from a friend who just saw one of his daughters at a party in a different neighborhood. However, the friend couldn't tell which of the daughters it was. When James came home, he asked his daughters who had been at the party. Autumn said she had been doing her homework all evening. Serena said she spent the day outside reading. Emily said she'd been playing Uno. James could tell immediately who was lying. Can you? Emily. She couldn't play Uno alone. She would need a partner for that. You're lost in a deep forest. It's getting dark, and you have to get out immediately, unless you want to spend the night in the woods. Luckily, you come across a little shack where a witch lives. She promises to show you a way out if you solve her riddle. So, here it is. Ava's mom has 3 daughters. The oldest daughter's name is April. The second daughter's name is May. Can you guess what's the name of the youngest daughter? It's Ava's mom, so the last daughter's name is Ava.
Carol was invited to a Halloween party in an abandoned house. Her friends asked if she was up for a challenge, and she said yes. Soon enough, she was locked inside a room. In this room, there was one door and 3 light switches next to it. Behind the door, there was an empty closet with nothing but a light bulb. Her task was to figure out which switch controlled the light bulb inside the closet. She could flip the switches however she wanted, but once she opened the door, she couldn't touch the switches anymore. Sometime later, she managed to get it right. How did Carol do it? Okay, let's go step by step. She flipped switch number 1, then waited for a few minutes. Then, she flipped it back to off and immediately flipped switch number 2. Then, she opened the door and checked the light. It was turned off. So she realized it wasn't switch number 2 that controlled the light. She decided to touch the bulb to test if it was hot or cold. If the bulb was cold, it would mean that switch number 3 controlled it. But the bulb was hot, so that meant that switch number 1 controlled it. Way to go, Carol! To get back to the party, Carol had to solve another riddle. There were 2 hourglasses in front of her. One hourglass measured 7 minutes, and the other measured 4 minutes. She needed to time 9 minutes using both hourglasses. How could she do it? First, she turned over both hourglasses at the same time. By the time the 4-minute hourglass was done, the other one still had 3 minutes left. Carol flipped the 4-minute hourglass over again. By the time the 7-minute hourglass was empty, there was 1 minute left on the other hourglass. And by the time the 4-minute hourglass emptied again, there was 1 minute's worth of sand in the bottom half of the 7-minute timer. She flipped it over again, so there was 1 minute's worth of sand in the top part of the hourglass. And when the 7-minute timer finally emptied again, 9 minutes had passed in total. Phew, that took some work. Someone stole a rare diamond from Mrs. Monica Fraser's house. Mrs. Fraser claimed she'd walked into her bedroom one morning and found that the glass box in her dressing room had been broken and the diamond had been gone. She called a detective, who soon arrived at her place and asked some questions. Based on his inquiries, he gathered 3 suspects. Mrs. Fraser's gardener, Steve, had the key to the house. Her cousin Sophia was staying with her for the week, and the cleaning lady Adeline cleaned the house every day. Steve said he was on holiday that week, so he wasn't anywhere near the house when it had happened. Sophia said she didn't even know her cousin had a diamond hidden in her house. And Adeline said that she'd been cleaning the house at around 10 p.m. the previous night. Everything had seemed all right. Who stole the jewelry? It was the cleaning lady. It seems that right after she broke the glass and stole the diamond, she also wiped off the pieces of glass left on the floor. On a cold winter day, Jason woke up after a medical procedure. He was lying in bed when the doctor walked into his room, saying there were 3 women outside claiming to be his wife. All 3 of them wanted to see Jason, but only his wife was allowed to do so. Look at the women. Which one do you think is telling the truth? The woman wearing a white shirt is the only one that has a ring on her left finger. She's the wife. It was a lazy Sunday morning, and John was having breakfast in the kitchen. Suddenly, he heard glass shattering. He walked into the living room and saw that someone had just broken one of his windows. He was mad and decided to go outside to see if he could find the culprit. There were only 3 people in the street, so he talked to each of them. The first was one of his neighbor's children. He was coming back from his football practice, holding a ball in his hands. He said he'd been going home at the time of the incident. The second person was Stephen, John's neighbor and longtime friend. He was carrying a toolbox. The man said he decided to come home to fix John's window. The last person was Julio, a mailman. He was riding his bike, throwing newspapers on people's front lawns. He said it had been hours since he'd passed John's house. Soon enough, John figured out who had done it. How? It was the mailman. If you look at the lawn, the newspaper is lying on the grass beneath the window. He threw the newspaper towards the mailbox, but missed it, and it hit John's window. Whoops. It was a stormy night. Kate and her boyfriend stayed up late watching a soap opera. In the middle of it, there was a weather forecast. The weather lady said it would keep raining for 2 more days, but in 72 hours, it'd be bright and sunny. Kate turned to her boyfriend and said that the weather lady was wrong, and the girl was right. Why? Because in 72 hours, it will also be nighttime, so it can't possibly be bright and sunny. It was Amelia's dream to go skydiving, but she was afraid of heights. One day, her friend took her to fulfill her dream. Amelia jumped from an airplane without a parachute and didn't get hurt. How is that possible? The plane wasn't flying, it was still on the ground. Duh. Dave, an archaeologist, traveled to Egypt on a very special mission. He spent days excavating ruins hidden under the sand, and the only thing he found was a coin marked 10 BCE. When he showed it to his colleagues, they told him the coin was a fake. Why? Well, because the designation BCE didn't appear until after the beginning of our era. It was raining when Mrs. Moore called the police. She said someone had just bumped into her car and driven away. When the police arrived, the only person next to the place of the incident was a man fixing his tire. Mrs. Moore said that that was the car that had bumped into hers. However, the gentleman said that it couldn't be true because he'd been busy fixing his car the whole time. Can you tell who's lying? It's the guy fixing his car. The rain started just recently. If he'd been fixing his car this whole time, the ground underneath it would be dry. But look, it's wet. This means he's just arrived there and is actually the one responsible for the incident. 4 friends decided to meet up for coffee one afternoon. Someone asked which one of them was the oldest, and they answered with a riddle. Mia is 3 times older than Anna, but 3 years ago, Anna was a year younger than Claudia is now, and Olivia is twice as old as Anna. So can you put the girls into order by age? The correct order is Mia, Olivia, Anna, and Claudia. Here's a quick one. What belongs to you, but others use it more often? Your name. Outside a fancy palace, 2 sentinels were guarding the main gate. They were standing, looking in different directions, one towards the west and the other towards the east. At some point, one of the sentinels asked the other, "What are you smiling about?" How could he know that his colleague was smiling? Well, despite the fact that they were looking in different directions, they weren't standing back to back. They were facing each other. Kevin was away on business and had to spend the night in a hotel. After a full day of meetings, he returned to his room to get some rest. He went to bed but couldn't fall asleep. After tossing and turning in bed for hours, he called someone, didn't say a word, and then finally fell asleep. Who did Kevin call? And how could he finally fall asleep? He called the room next door, as his neighbor was snoring very loudly. The ringing woke the neighbor up, the snoring stopped, and Kevin managed to doze off. You've just come back from a long vacation. There, you bought a new suitcase to store all the new things you got, but you don't remember the code. Luckily, you left yourself a note on your cell phone to help you decipher the code to open the lock. 682. One digit is right and in its place. 614. One digit is right but in the wrong place. 206. Two digits are right but both are in the wrong place. 768. All digits are wrong. 380. One digit is right but in the wrong place. What's the three-digit code? Zero, 4, 2. Alex is a teenager living in New York City. His science teacher assigned him an interesting experiment, and Alex's mind was buzzing with possibilities. He ran home and found a huge watermelon in his mother's pantry. It was massive. When he weighed it, he found it was 100 pounds. He found out everything he needed about watermelons. But the most important information was that watermelons were generally 99% water. For the experiment, he left the fruit drying out in the sun for a few days. With the help of a trusty weighing scale, he discovered that the watermelon was now only 98% water. To get a 10 in his science experiment, he needed to figure out the total weight of the watermelon after losing 1% of its water. Can you help Alex out with this one? Here's the deal. At first glance, this riddle sounds like a piece of cake. You might have guessed that the watermelon now weighed 99 pounds. But that's actually not even close. Let's work out the answer together. To solve the riddle, Alex should start by thinking about the non-water part of the watermelon. If the watermelon was 100 pounds and 99% water, then 1% of it was the actual fruit. So, 1% of 100 pounds is 1 pound of the fruit. After drying, the watermelon is 98% water, which means the 1 pound of fruit now makes up 2% of the total weight. So, if 1 pound is 2% of the total weight, we can call that total weight W. 1 pound of 2% of W, which is the same thing as saying that 1 pound equals 0.02 times W. To find W, we need to divide both sides by 0.02. So, if W equals 1 pound divided by 0.02, this means that W equals 50 pounds. Eureka! Alex had cracked the case. The once 100-pound watermelon now weighed 50 pounds. Cole invited his girlfriend Nikki over for a game night at his place. He told her he had a very difficult quiz prepared for her to solve. Cole showed her an empty triangular glass. He grabbed some orange juice and asked her when the glass would be closest to full. Measuring from the bottom of the glass till the top, Nikki had to guess the percentage of orange juice she'd have to pour in order for the triangular glass to be the closest as possible to half full. If you had to guess without any calculations, what would you say? This is tricky, but let's check out the answer. Intuitively, you might have thought that the answer was 50% of the height of the glass, but that's wrong. When 50% of its height is filled, it means there's only 12.5% of juice inside the glass. In a similar way, if the triangular glass was filled up to 70% of its height, this would mean that it is only 34.3% full. The answer we're looking for is 80% of the height of the glass. To solve this riddle, we need to remember a basic geometry formula that says that the percentage of the volume is equal to the cube of the percentage of the height. So, if we're looking for 50% of the volume, we're searching for nearly 80% of the height to make it equal. Got it, genius? It was a sunny day in Los Angeles, and Harry and Maria were planning their wedding. Maria was very nervous because she couldn't figure out the seating chart for their wedding. They had 100 guests and had to distribute them around. To lighten up the mood, Harry remembered an old, difficult-to-solve riddle that would definitely take Maria's mind off things. He asked her if she could figure out the mathematical equation needed to get the number 100 out of 4 nines. She could use the simple things such as addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. The important part was that she got the number 100 out of it all. Can you help Maria out? The best way to solve these kinds of riddles is to start backwards. There are multiple ways to get the total of 100. Dare to join me in brainstorming the ways? You could simply add 99 plus 1 or 90 plus 9 plus 1. But that's not what the rules ask us to do. We need to use the number 9 4 times. For example, 90 plus 9 times 9 divided by 9, well, this won't get us to 100. But what about 99 plus 9 divided by 9? I know we have 2 nines as one number, but that's okay by the rules. This way, you use all the 4 nines you need to use, although you are combining 2 nines into one number. But there are other possible answers. What do you say? Did you find any other answers to this crazy riddle? Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, Queen Matilda needed to hire a worker for a 7-day project. The job was crucial, and she wanted to ensure the worker was paid daily. However, she could only pay him in gold bars, and she could only make a minimum of 2 cuts in her precious gold bar. Her plan was to pay him 1/7 of the bar per day. Can you figure out how she could manage to do this, following the conditions we showed? Well, Queen Matilda is a very intelligent woman, so this is how she worked it out. She made 2 precise cuts in the gold bar, creating 3 pieces. The first piece was 1/7 of the bar. The second piece was 2/7, and the third piece was 4/7. On the first day, the worker finished his shift, and Queen Matilda handed him the 1/7 piece. On the second day, she swapped the 1/7 piece for the 2/7 piece, so the worker now had 2/7 of the bar. By the third day, she gave him back the 1/7 piece, resulting in the worker having 3/7 in total. On the fourth day, Queen Matilda took back the 1/7 and 2/7 pieces and handed over the larger 4/7 piece. On the fifth day, the Queen handed over the 1/7 piece again, so the worker now had 5/7 of the bar. On the sixth day, the Queen took back the 1/7 piece and gave him the 2/7 piece, resulting in the worker having 6/7 of the bar. Finally, on the seventh day, the Queen handed over the last 1/7 piece, completing the full bar payment. And that's how Queen Matilda managed to pay her worker every day with just 2 cuts in the gold bar. Brilliant, right? Way to go, Queen M! Jake is on a bus, heading to visit his parents for the weekend. On another bus, coming from the opposite direction, is his brother, Max. Both buses are barreling down the road towards each other, each cruising along at 40 miles per hour. They started out at 40 miles apart. The brothers had been texting each other about their journeys, eager for the family reunion. As Jake stares out the window, he notices a little bird flitting around. His mind starts to wander and he imagines the bird flying back and forth between the two buses and wonders how many miles the birds would have flown back and forth until the buses meet each other. Can you help him out there? First, Jake figures out how long it will take for the buses to meet. Since both buses are driving at 40 miles per hour, their combined speed is 80 miles per hour. With a 40-mile distance between them, he divides the distance by their combined speed. 40 divided by 80 equals 0.5 hours, or 30 minutes. Next, Jake turns his attention to the bird. He guesses the bird is flying at 50 miles per hour. Jake quickly multiplies the bird's speed by the time it takes for the buses to meet. This equals 25 minutes. So, by the time the buses meet, the little bird will have flown 25 miles. Yikes!